I got so carried away physically, painting with my hand, I didn't even want the brush to come between me and the image.
Robert Rauschenberg was born Milton Ernest Rauschenberg in Port Arthur, Texas, on October 22, 1925. After public school, he enrolled in the University of Texas at Austin. He studied pharmacology and served in the U.S. Navy in World War II in 1944, and 3 years later attended the Kansas City Art Institute. Along the way, he changed his name to Robert. He later took his studies to Black Mountain College in North Carolina, where he studied under Master Joseph Albers and alongside contemporary artists such as choreographer Merce Cunningham and musician John Cage. While at Black Mountain, Rauschenberg met artist Susan Weil and married her in 1950. Their son Christopher was born in 1951. With his move in 1970 from New York to Captiva, Rauschenberg cleared his palette, where he built up the graphic workshop Untitled Press Incorporated.
Captiva was peaceful, Captiva was quiet and remote, and so Captiva was still a secret.
He started off with the original beach house. When it got to be sort of close to dinner time, he would sort of look around the room, do a kind of a head count, and wade out into the water and fish until he caught enough fish for dinner. It's like, okay, I'm gonna need 7 fish, okay.
Bob was just a new arrival on the island at that time. We just kind of got a soul connection. And the fact that he was letting me come and just drift through the studio before it became a studio, you know, it was just a house. And he had set up a 4x8, you know, door to work on a couple of sawhorses, the way we all did. I remember very well his first show.
I thought everybody could draw and paint. I found no difficulty in doing a likeness to anything. And it wasn't until after the Navy that I heard enough people saying, you ought to be an artist.
He didn't know that there was a job called artist. I gotta get that job. I wanna be the painting maker. Where do I apply?
You know, he was in New York, top of the food chain artists. His work was off the charts. Cy Twombly had come and Bryce Martin was there and Jasper John. It's like the movers and the shakers of the art world came to this remote island where Bob was. There was a lot of things about the archival materials that needed attention. And when I told Bob that, oh, you know, we could have a problem with this, we could have a problem with that, and he said, well, now it's your job to make sure we don't have a problem with anything. And so I was in charge of the researching and development. This is Bob working on a big metal painting with heat lamps. Acrylic paint, which was known to dry fast, wouldn't dry fast enough. And we would see smoke coming from the paintings.
My father put this property up for sale. Several people wanted to buy it, but my father had cottoned on to Rauschenberg, and he liked the idea of this big artist taking over this property. Bob could see that there was going to be a progression of takeover, probably all the way to Tween Waters. This is my sister Nancy, but her real name is Cornelia.
Dad was a real conservationist, and as you know, he bought this property from Ding Darling. And I think Ding Darling was really thrilled when Dad came along because he knew that he could trust Dad to preserve it the way it had been. And so when he and his wife, we called her Gigi, she was our stepmother. Dad was equally thrilled when Bob Rauschenberg said that he would agree to a conservation clause in the deed. I remember how thrilled Dad was. But as he was living here, Rusty, he could hear the sounds of bulldozers and nail guns and steam shovels, as we used to call them, north of here as this huge development was taking over the island. And he did not want to see Captiva further destroyed, ruined by this development. So he wanted to put up a barrier. And he decided that his property was going to be the barrier, that nobody, by God, was going to ruin this place.
Half the price was in cash, and the other half was Rauschenberg's portraits of the Van Vleck family. And the first thing he did when he got to it, this house, was to tear out a couple of walls and paint the walls and the ceiling white.
As the various neighbors got to a point where they needed to sell their properties, that's why they approached Bob, is because they knew he wouldn't develop it. And so that's why they gave him the first opportunity. And sometimes he had to dig pretty deep in his pockets to purchase them. He really had no cash. He was living off of a line of credit at South Florida Bank. And the hole got pretty deep before things turned around and started to get better. But I didn't see him worry about it once.
I appreciated that Dad appreciated Rauschenberg. He loved you, and he felt that if you appreciated Bob Rauschenberg, by golly,
That was worth it.
he would too. So if this is my first time here in 40 years, I'm impressed. I think he kept his word to Dad.
He could see that there was a real danger of the South Seas plantation just sort of expanding up the island. He went to the property owners in sort of a belt and said, I'd like to buy your property, but I don't actually need it for anything. I would like to buy it, I'll pay the bills, you live there, and when you're gone, then I'm not going to sell it to them.
In 1984, Rauschenberg announced his Rauschenberg Overseas Cultural Interchange, ROCKY. This would culminate in a 7-year, 10-country tour to encourage world peace and understanding.
He made these huge things to sell, to make money, to save the world. I'm sure this is what it was all about.
Well, it's interesting because you could describe that as generosity, in which case he was at the top of the scale of it. But it always seemed to me that it was much more that he was kind of a team player. If a point guard passes the ball to the center for them to dunk it, the point guard isn't being generous. The point guard is helping the team to do what the team needs to do for the team to win.
This was one of Bob's favorite flutes. It's a Native American medicine flute. It's made from the wood of an apple tree. One of the last times I saw Bob in the hospital, he asked me to play it for him. I met Bob Rauschenberg at a sushi and wine tasting party. He was there and got some chopsticks and started to play chopsticks on the different wine bottles, making like a percussion xylophone sound. And so then I came up and started blowing on the different bottles of wine, making flute sounds. And of course, when he played the piano, it wasn't just playing the keys, it was reaching in and playing the strings, and the poor piano kind of suffered. He would play anything you let him play. He might do something that would be the polar opposite, or sometimes he would answer in a sweet, beautiful way too. I would let him play some of my flutes sometimes, and he had a keyboard that he would play too, a synthesizer. Bob loved to play music. I use the word music in a loose sense of the word because he wasn't a trained musician at all. When I would travel with him, it was something like traveling with a rock star, only even better. I played for his opening at Ferrara, Italy, Bilbao, Guggenheim. I played at the National Gallery in Washington, D.C., the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I would usually play a solo flute.
Obviously, there's a practicality in having your art supplies be stuff that you find on the street. If you can't afford the stuff at the art store, which he couldn't, he had this rule that he could go around the block once, and that was the materials for his painting. But if he needed it, he could go around. He was allowed to go around the second block. That was sort of his, okay, well, I really didn't get enough for a painting here. But I think the idea was to sort of say, everything is interesting. If he had a chair in one of his paintings, he wouldn't go to the store and buy a brand new chair. It would be a chair that had been sat on. It would be a chair that had a life. so that he's not just putting a chair into the piece, he's putting all the butts that sat in that chair into the piece.
Bob had walked around New York. He found these 2 steps, and he found these chairs. He wanted it done like it was jewelry, but it weighed 1,500 pounds of bronze.
Whatever media he had chosen, whether paint on canvas, metal, plexiglass, cardboard, or fabric, he had always been a forerunner in almost every aspect of contemporary art.
Here we go.
My father was dyslexic, and one of the things that happens with dyslexia is that you invent your own way. If there's a normal path that everybody else takes, if you're dyslexic, that path doesn't work for you. You can't navigate that path. If you've got 50 people doing everything the same way, and one guy over here doing it a new way, this guy is inventing something.
My greatest joy is in working. That's when I feel a wholeness. I don't have anything on my mind when I go to work. A lack of purpose, probably.
Being so driven by curiosity meshes really well with you're going to invent everything yourself. All these things around you are more interesting than you think they are. They have all kinds of interesting conversations that they can have with each other if you bring them together into one place, and that one of the things that's being brought together to enter into the conversation is you, the viewer. Here's half of a conversation, and when you walk up to the painting, now there's a full conversation. I think with all his works, they all have as many different meanings as there are people to look at them, at least.
So it's a history of life on the planet through what was on the planet. The things that were neglected, the orphans, all the pieces and the parts.
I used to play this one at the fish house quite a lot. I always saw his art as music, so I understood his art immediately because it just looked like music, the way it was composed. The colors are different notes, so it wasn't always beautiful, but music isn't always beautiful. Sometimes it's angry.
There's probably at least 4 or 5 of us that Bob bought cameras for. And the one instruction he gave us at one point in time was, well, don't take a picture of anything that's too interesting.
He was making this work, and everybody was getting all uptight about it. Now, is this painting or sculpture? We don't know if it's painting or sculpture. Is this painting or sculpture? It was like, come on, how stupid can you people be? Who cares if it's painting or sculpture? But they were really uptight about it. So he remembered that Calder had made up this word mobile, and then people did stop worrying about it. So he said, okay, I'm going to make up a word. I'm going to call it a combine. And then they could go, oh, it's a combine, and just look at it. You know? Stop worrying about if it's a painting or a sculpture. What your category is stupid. You know, go have an experience. Now, what category are you?
I could just do another Rauschenberg, but that would disappoint me. I wouldn't come over here if I knew what I was doing. I mean, somebody else could do it. Every day is a surprise, not always a good one. I don't think I'd be an artist if it was something that like a real profession. Just do another pass.
He was an artist that worked. He would get stronger from making art. And all the mistakes that he made, you know, his mistakes was his happiest things. He said, if you knew how things would be, why do it?
Curiosity is only positive. And that's the reason that he could switch from making paintings to doing dance. He didn't mind it when the paintings became valuable and they were worth a lot of money. That wasn't a problem for him. He liked it, but it was never his reason that he did things. He started with nothing, and he had nothing for a long time.
I've always worked from the streets, and from either the images from the streets or the materials from the streets. I kept coming up with the idea of it has to be something that appears to be disposable.
I never saw him say, oh, this painting just isn't working. I'm going to throw it away and start over. I never saw him do that. It was whatever he started to do, if it fought back, that was great. Something that would resist him, that would fight back, that would sort of say, well, You want me to be interesting, but I don't want to be interesting. That sense that Bob loved so much, you know, of like, now I have no idea what I'm doing. Now that I'm doing this, I have no idea what I'm doing. Oh boy.
So if you can say, oh, that's abstract expressionism, that's postmodernism, then you don't even have to look back, because you have the false illusion of knowing what you're looking at. And if you think that you know what you're looking at while you're looking at it, well then it doesn't even have to be there.
And his attitude was, how come everybody's not here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Because why would you want to be doing anything else?
Bob used to say we shouldn't talk about the magic. We had to keep it in-house. And I could see why Bob didn't want us to talk. He tells the story of when he first came to Captiva, and he was driving near his property, and a ball of butterflies flew into the car. And he always wanted to look for symbols and signs. I think Captiva kind of chose Bob, and Bob just felt that this was the right place. What he was doing was natural. He was a shaman. He had that spirit of being in touch with nature.
I love the peace. I've gone through several phases myself. I had my own garden. I lived off the island. I used to love swimming. I still do. I used to foolishly bake myself in the sun. I just felt healthy.
When he knew that he was dying and he was talking about it, he would say, you know, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm just worried I'm going to miss stuff. I don't want to miss anything.
To help Bob make his dreams, what a dream of a job is that?
I started paying attention to the tides, to the wind, to all the bird sounds and the fish jumping, and all that occupied my day and interested me. In fact, I felt a little too busy.
His idea was that the property in Florida, after he was gone, that it should be made into an artist residency. The idea is that you go and you have a powerful experience that you would not be the same person when you left. There's a sort of a spiritual aspect of it, that it makes you feel at peace in a certain kind of a way, that place.
I knew that I couldn't live without painting or making art. It was essential to my particular sanity.
For my father, the art world was, in a sense, a party that was at his house. So our job in the foundation is to keep the party going, to keep bringing out more trays of food.
Robert Rauschenberg lived and worked on Captiva Island from 1970 until his death on May 12, 2008.
You're not gone until the last person who remembers you is gone, you know? And that's going to be a long time for Bob.